Hey y'all, it's Abriana here. I am a little under the weather, but I am on the come up, so I apologize for my voice. But today we are speaking with Angelica Witherspoon-Cassanova, the author of Clop Chronicles. Today, Angelica shares with us her experience as a writer and a rider. She rides dressage and she writes books. I mean, come on now. Multi-talented equestrian women. I hope you enjoy this episode and be sure to check out www.clipclopchronicles.com.
You are listening to Young Black Equestrians, the podcast, with your hosts, Abriana Johnson and Caitlin Gooch. So, Angelica, welcome to an episode of Young Black Equestrians, the podcast. We are very delighted to have you on our podcast tonight. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yes.
Me too.
So we usually start each episode off with just sharing something that we are thankful for today. So if you want to, Angelica, go ahead and share something that you are thankful for today.
Oh, that's nice. Well, one, I'm thankful that I was able to reach out to you all and be a part of your podcast and your audience. That's super. That's a really neat thing. So thank you for that. But also, I'm thankful I just left a council meeting in one of the towns that I live near, and they just elected their first African American councilwoman over the course of 100 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was there for her swearing in. So that's you don't always get to see those type of things in history. So I was glad that I was able to be there, and I'm thankful that I'm part of the number that was able to witness that historic event.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome.
All right, Caitlin, what are you thankful for today?
I am thankful for my family once again, because we are in between transferring Haley's school, and because of the holiday, it's been taking up a lot more time. So Haley has still been able to stay in school until we can actually get her here. So she won't miss a day of school because she's going to start her new school on Wednesday. So I'm thankful for them just stepping in. My mom and my dad stepping in to help.
Yeah. Wednesday, like this week?
Yep. She'll start her new school.
Oh, Haley moving too.
I know. How about you? What are you thankful for?
I am thankful for staff that follows directions and that don't complain. We had an outbreak at the pet resort 2 weeks ago while I was on vacation. So we had to shut down the majority of our services, and we just had the Thanksgiving holiday, so we were completely booked. We had 98 dogs and 4 cats, and everything was clean, pretty much top to bottom. And the staff, they did the work. It sucked. The chemicals suck. They stink. It was a lot of scrubbing, just trying to kill any bacteria on the surfaces, any fomites, anything like that. So I'm just thankful for them. And because of that, we had a pretty successful Thanksgiving, fully booked holiday, and nobody got sick so far that we know of. And nobody is, angry at us, and all of our clients were really, really nice about it. So I am thankful for those people, because I would not have been able to make it through the holiday without their help. So that's what I'm thankful for.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, Angelica, do you want to start off with kind of just telling us about yourself, kind of where you're located, and if you ride horses, and how you got into them?
Okay, yeah. So currently, well, I'm a writer and a writer that's currently in Florida, although I split my time between California and Florida, so I've been here for a little bit. I do ride horses, and currently I'm riding a couple of dressage schoolmasters. So one is a Westphalian named Rookshook. He's pretty cool. He's got a lot of buttons that you can press, and he's super fun to ride. And then there's another one, a Hanoverian named Gusto, and he is just the sweetest thing as well. Let's see, how did I get into riding? I grew up in the country, and we have, there's a lot of livestock here, a lot of cows, a lot of horses, chickens, goats. So one day, I believe I was probably around 6 years old. I was coming home from church with my aunt, and she saw two people that she knew riding horses along the street. So she pulled over to say hello, and they were like, do you want to get on? And I said, sure. I was somewhat in awe by how big they were, but I wasn't afraid of being near them, being near a horse or getting on him. And we just walked around, it was like a little pony ride at the time. But after that, it was like, I'm going to read every book about horses. I'm going to watch every movie about horses. I'm going to draw horses. And I think my parents thought it was a phase, which is why they didn't give me lessons for some time. But once they did, the rest is history. So that's when I started riding. And when I was younger, I did like hunter jumper. And then I got injured, not from horses, but something completely different. And before that, I was riding in eventing, lower level. So then I got hurt, and then once I was able to ride again, I just focused on dressage. That's what I've been doing since then.
Awesome. Do you just do that leisurely as well, or do you compete?
I used to compete. Right now, it's just leisure, but I think, in the future, I would like to get back into eventing. The lower levels, not anything higher than training, because I've volunteered at like Red Hills Horse Trials, and I see those jumps, and they're not nothing to sneeze at. So maybe like up to training level, but I would like to get back into showing and competing and get back to that level. But on occasion, I'll go to a little schooling show for dressage in the meantime.
So, what are some challenges that you may have faced as a minority in the horse industry, if any?
I think there's two that I can think of. The first is being underestimated, especially at horse shows. When I used to compete, or when I still compete, there's always like a lot of side eye. Not so much now. Well, it depends on the show, but there's a lot of side eye. And, when you're getting your horse ready before the show, you can get dirty, you can get, disheveled or whatever. And people will see that and look at you and say, what are you doing here? Or, can you bring me some hay to my stall as if I work there?
Right.
And only to get into the ring and beat them, which was like, then they want to be your friend. So it's like a lot of that underestimating. That's like, just we're going to ride horses. Let's just ride horses. I think the second challenge would be isolation because of that, underestimating. Don't get me wrong, I have friends that are horse riders, but there was a time where it was like, we don't know if we want to be your friend. So it was just like, okay, well, I guess I'll just be here with the horse, because he doesn't care that I'm a chocolate child.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's mostly the things that I've run into as challenges in the equestrian world.
I wish that would just dissolve, because it's so irrelevant now. Like if you're there in these spaces, I mean, clearly you're there for a reason, and you probably know just as much or maybe even more than the people that you're around.
Right. And you almost have to do better, because, it's just like in the world, there's a lot of underestimating of people that aren't like them or that don't look the same way as they do. So.
Mm-hmm. That is the truth. That is the truth. So we haven't, I guess, jumped in it yet, but the reason why Angelica is on our podcast today is because she is, like she said, a writer and a writer, and she sent us some copies of her book, Clop Chronicles, Stories of a Girl and Her Horse Adventures. So I just wanted to talk about that, about the book specifically, and also kind of just the process. And you already said it. I wanted to talk about this term, chocolate child. I love it. I love it in the book. What kind of made you come up with that?
Well, chocolate child specifically, or the book?
Chocolate child specifically for now.
So it's kind of been something that our family has done since I was little. We'd be like, oh, she's chocolate, she's vanilla, she's caramel. We just equate people to sweets. So, and I thought I always liked that, and it was a fun thing to, that's how we respond to, or that's how we call each other. So I said, why wouldn't I make my character also feel like she's a chocolate child? Because, chocolate's sweet. Who doesn't love chocolate?
Caitlin does not like chocolate.
No, Caitlin.
Chocolate is nasty.
Okay.
But one of our family members calls my oldest daughter, they call her the chocolate baby.
But then you love your baby, so you do love chocolate.
In that sense, I guess she can get with it. But yeah, so what was your vision behind Clop Chronicles? It's the story. I'm on chapter 8. I'm like barely in it, but it's a story of Roz Stone and kind of her horse adventures. I'm kind of disappointed with her because her lawnmower was destroyed, and that was her means of income. So that's where I am in the book. But what kind of inspired you to write this book?
Well, it's interesting because my I guess mentor at the time, because I write generally feature scripts or TV scripts and that kind of thing. But she was like, there's another way to get into the door is to write a book, get a following, and then have, that's a different way to go about getting where you want to go. And I told her, I never thought about writing a book. Honestly, it feels like a lot of work. I don't know if I want to. Mm-hmm. And she was like, I think you should. And you should write about, I don't know I can't remember what she said, but she was like, something random. And I said, and she said, you can use this money to buy your first house. That's what I did with my book. And I said, or I could buy a bunch of horses. And she was like, you ride horses? Mm-hmm. It was kind of like the same, like that's you? And I said, yeah. So she was like, you should write a book about you and all of your black friends riding horses. And I said, well, I don't know what that feels like, because I don't have a lot of black friends who ride horses. And I didn't grow up with a bunch of black friends riding horses. Mm-hmm. I was the only one. Mm-hmm. So she said, well, you should write a book about that, your experiences as a black rider in the world of horses. Mm-hmm. And so I said, okay, I think I could maybe do that. And it also was a challenge that I wasn't really looking to do, but I said, well, I'll give it a try. And then once I started writing it, I was like, this is nice, because when I was growing up, there wasn't that many books about people of color riding horses, if any. Mm-hmm. I believe there was like the Saddle Club at some point.
Yeah.
But they didn't ever, it was never talked about like her being black or anything like that, or her family so much. It was just kind of like, it was all horses, which is great for me at the time. Mm-hmm. But I figured there's got to be other little horse girls out there that would like to read a story about a little black girl riding horses. So that kind of pushed me forward to keep with the book and keep pushing on with the story. And then So hopefully some little black girls out there have read it and love it and want to ride. Or I've had some friends tell me that their students have read the book and they aren't riders, but now they're like, oh, I can ride a horse because this little girl in this book rode a horse.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of thing like that is what makes it kind of worthwhile and what makes it fun, and it's kind of why I want to do it and keep doing it.
Right. It's funny, I was flipping through the book, and I just happened to land on a page. I want to say it was chapter 18, if I remember correctly. But a name caught my eye, and it was Felicia Chandler. And she was actually on our podcast a few episodes ago. So I was just like, oh my gosh, look at that. Somebody we know.
I asked her, I reached out to her, and I was like, I wrote a book. You're in it. Can I send you a copy? And she was very gracious and took it. And so, I wanted to let little girls know that also they're like real live black people out there riding horses.
Right.
And she's one of them.
Yeah, definitely. She's awesome. We have the same personality type, I feel, based on our Facebook interactions. So I really enjoy.
She is awesome.
Yeah, I enjoy her. So tell us more about like the writing process, like, because I've published 2 children's books, short little stories, and there's so many ways to go about publishing a book. So tell us kind of what route you took as far as publishing for Clip Clop.
So initially I went the traditional route. I was sending out query letters and reaching out to managers and agents and all of that. And I did that for a good year. And it was, not maybe several hundreds, but a good amount of people that I reached out to. And I always got the same response. It was like, good writing, it's a nice story, but it's not what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. That's cool. And then at the end of that year, it had been a rough year all around. And so that was when I decided to look into self-publishing and see how that would go. And it took a little while for me. While I'm still sending out these query letters, I was like, I really just want people to read this book. If it's just 50 people or millions of people,
mm-hmm.
I got to get it out there somewhere,
mm-hmm.
some way. And so that's why I eventually, ultimately landed on self-publishing for this particular book. Because it was like, you're telling me that it's a good writing and it's a good story. So other, people must want to read it, or people might want to read it.
Right.
So that was when I said, listen, for this one, maybe in the future it'll get picked up. Hopefully it does.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we got to open our own doors and make things happen. And that was what my thought process was at the time.
Yeah.
So that's when I went through self-publishing, and which is great, I guess, because, people are out there doing your thing. You're basically in control of everything.
Yeah.
You're also in control of marketing, which is the thing that would be nice to have from a big publishing house backing you. But
right.
It has its pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm.
And I felt that this wasn't the only story. Now that I wrote the book, I was like, well, if I wrote one, I could write others.
Right.
There are plenty of other stories that I have in me that may be more suited to a book as opposed to film and television. And I said, this isn't the only opportunity I'll have to get a traditional publishing deal. So why not put it out there, open some doors for myself, and see what happens.
Right. I completely agree with that. Did you go through Amazon publishing?
Yeah, so the first one was through CreateSpace before they shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
So which is owned by Amazon, but
yeah.
yes. And then I also put it on Ingram Spark so that they could get it. They wouldn't stock it on the shelves in Barnes & Noble, but you could go to the desk and order it because it has a specific ISBN through Ingram Spark. That's like their thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I also put it on like, a bunch of digital platforms outside of Kindle. I did not do the KDP, the
Kindle Direct Publishing.
Select or something like that, where they have the only digital rights. So what if people don't have a Kindle? If they have a Nook, I'd still like them to be able to read it. So.
Right. Yeah, I think I did not choose that option.
Yeah. Because I was like, I can still sell it as an ebook on Amazon, but also I think I went through draft to digital, or yes, I think that's what it's called. Anyways, they put it on a bunch of different other platforms outside of Kindle.
Right.
So, and then I had a friend, thankfully, that had a mother who's a librarian, and so they were able to get it into the county that basically the book is set in, into the libraries there.
Oh, that's nice. So, I know a lot of people ask me when I'm talking about Cowgirl Cameron, but Roz pretty much represents who you are, and these are, your personal stories coming up.
Yeah, well, most of them. A lot of them are embellished, but most of them are steeped in truths. It's funny because my aunt, after she read the book, she got mad at me because she was like, "Why would you do that? You disappoint your parents." Not giving out any spoilers for the book, but she was yelling at me, and I was like, "It's fake. It's not me." But she still wouldn't. She wasn't trying to have it. She was like, "I know that that's you." But yeah, there's a lot of bits and pieces of my life in the book.
Right.
That's Rod's.
Right. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I say the same thing. Like, I've never had a herd of a llama and an alpaca. I mean, not a llama, an alpaca and a miniature donkey and a mini horse. Like, no, I didn't have all those animals all together, but I have interacted with all of them, so it's easy to convey their personality. But yeah.
She doesn't have them all yet.
Yeah, I don't have them all yet. Now that I wrote the book, it's like, well, I need them in real life.
You have to get them.
Yeah. I don't know. The miniature donkey might be the very last one, because those jokers.
Oh my gosh, they're the best, miniature donkeys.
I used to live with one, and I used to have to walk around in my apartment in the dark, because if I turned my light on, he would scream. So.
He lived inside?
No. But I lived in an apartment over a garage that you could see from the barn. And so he would watch for me to turn my light on. And then like 6 o'clock in the morning be like, ha, ha. And I just was like, you know what? I have mini donk PTSD a little bit. So that would be the last thing. But,
they're so cute.
Yes. So what strategies are you using to market your book?
A lot of social media, and like I've hired a couple of social media people because I'm not the best social media person. But thankfully you can hire people to do that stuff for you. Yeah. I've also had people here on the ground, like in real life, that are like event planners. So we hold little events for like book signings, and I've gone to schools to talk to the kids and read from the books. And a couple of classrooms, that was like their book for the semester. So they were reading the book with the teacher, and at the end of the semester I showed up, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, she's here." And so then they tell their friends. And so, I try and do a little bit of digital, but a little bit of in life, in person as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of Facebook stuff, which will probably be ramping up now that the second one's coming out, but on some Twitter, Yeah. And then we have the website. And, you know,
Yeah.
steer people in real life to the digital life.
For sure. Who did your cover?
A person on Fiverr, actually.
Oh, wow.
I have a minor. My bachelor minor is in graphic design.
Okay.
So I was like, I can do it, but I don't really want to.
Yeah.
So I hired somebody to do it, and after a long, long process, we were able to get what I liked and able to. And I just really wanted the picture. Somebody told me once I finished the book, that are you going to just put a picture of a horse on the front? Because otherwise, people might not read it if there's a black person on the front. I was offended by that. Because I was like, I read a bunch of books that have not black people on the cover and have no problems with it. I read the back. It sounds like an interesting story. I'll pick it up. So this person said that, and I said, you know what? I specifically now want somebody that looks like a black person on the front of the cover.
Right.
Just so that we can, have some representation, because it didn't seem like something that was important to her, but it is important. So
yeah.
I said, and she can have a little friend. That's fine, because she does have friends in the book. But the Afro Puffs was like, some little black child is going to look at that and say, that person kind of looks like me. And that's exactly what I wanted. So.
Especially Afro Puffs. That's the go-to.
I know. Cowgirl Cameron, now I'm going to have a whole separate book of Cowgirl Cameron hair, because I feel like I'm doing my own hair every time I have to draw her. She's got Afro Puffs in this next one. I'm like, girl. Anyway, but yeah, I really, really like the cover of the book. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
So let me think. Caitlin, do you have any questions for her?
Yes. Have you started on another one yet?
Yes, the next one honestly will be out this month.
Oh,
wow. And we're just, I just got an email from the person who's designing the cover. So the cover is almost where it should be, and it's in layout now, and so pretty soon here, hopefully we'll be having a Volume 2, Clop Chronicles Volume 2.
That's awesome. Was this process faster than the first?
Absolutely not. It was a lot slower, surprisingly. I think the first one, it was just kind of like, I have to get it done just to say that I can, just to see that I can do it. This go round was like, okay, I can do it. But do I want to do it right now? There's other things I need to write also. That said, it was almost finished maybe a year ago, and I read it and decided I didn't like it. So I scrapped it and started over. So it probably should have taken the same amount of time, but it didn't. And honestly, I'm happier with this story. So hopefully everybody will be too.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, because I know earlier how you were talking about the cover, you wanted it how you wanted it. So at least you're not just, putting out something that you don't like. I don't know how many times that happens, but I'm glad you're not doing it.
Yeah, I'm not putting it out just to churn out content. I really want people to connect with the characters and, take little nuggets out into the real world that they can use. And so if it's not something I would, read, why would I put it out?
Right. So what is your day job? Like, you said you are writing scripts and stuff?
Yeah. So that's the that's kind of like the side day job currently. There's so many jobs.
Same.
Yeah, that is unfortunately the life of an artist until they can only do art for work.
Yeah.
So currently, I do a bunch of different things. We'll just say that. I do a bunch of different things. Also, I'm learning how to code so that I can, if I got to do other things other than art full time, until I can do my art full time, at least I can do something that's like useful and lucrative.
Yeah.
We should say that.
Definitely. Yeah. Technology is the place to be nowadays.
It is very much so.
So what advice would you give? I will make this a 2-part question. What advice would you give someone who is an aspiring equestrian? And then what advice would you give someone who is an aspiring writer?
Well, for the aspiring equestrian, I would say ride as many horses as you can. It's really nice to have the same horse and have that connection with the same horse, and know his ins and outs and know you're having a good day. But it's a totally different thing to be able to ride a bunch of different horses, or any horse. And I'm not talking about maniacs where you have to be highly trained to take care of it. I'm just talking about any horse in the barn, or a friend's horse, or if you want to hop on somebody else's horse and show them. Like in college, in the Intercollegiate Equestrian Association, that's what they do. They just pull out a name and you ride. You have like 5 minutes to feel out your horse, and then you go. So, if you're trying to be an equestrian, there's nothing like riding a bunch of different horses. Like the 2 horses I told you, the Westphalian and the Hanoverian, they're both large warm bloods that do dressage, and they are both completely different rides and completely different feels. And there's also a tiny Arabian that's being retrained because he was rescued, and he's totally different from obviously the other 2. So if as many horses you can get on, that's definitely, I would say, number 1. Number 2, try different disciplines. I grew up riding hunter jumpers and went into eventing, but when I was in college, I got the opportunity to ride some barrel horses, and we did poles, and it was really fun. And I didn't realize I would like it so much. On the flip side of that, I always thought that gaited horses were really neat until I rode one, and it was a neat ride, but it was odd, and I didn't really want to do it ever again. So, much power to the people who ride gaited horses. It's cool to watch, but for me, it was just kind of like I don't know. I want to try it, or I want to do something different.
Yeah, I have a walking horse, so I know what you mean.
Right, but I didn't know that until I tried it. So, try different disciplines. And you might be like, oh, I want to ride barrels, or I want to do dressage, or I want to jump. Well, try those things before you feel like, I'm in it to win it. Because hunters are a lot different from jumpers, so just try different disciplines. Don't be afraid. And then, let's see. Oh, ride without stirrups as much as you can. Maybe not all the time, but it's a different, and I'm, ride bareback, which is completely different from riding without stirrups. But they both give you a different, they both give you a different type of balance, a different type of feel, and a different type of posture in the saddle. So I think those are probably 3 things I would tell an aspiring equestrian.
Those are great things. So for an aspiring writer who wants to publish their book and, get their name out there, any tips and tricks for them?
Write a lot of bad stuff. Just write it. Write every day. I hate to say the cliche thing, but like all of my professors were like, writing is only rewriting. So it's never going to be the right thing right out the box, right out the gate. So you got to write about a lot of bad stuff and, work on it. And write every day. And then write something that you really like or something that's kind of true to you. Everybody has a story to tell, so I wouldn't get caught up with, unless somebody's paying you to do it, which is, when you get to that point, then you write what they tell you to write. But up to that point, write things that are true to you, write things that you would want to read. And even if it's not something that you, like, say, you're not into writing, but you find it interesting, write it from that point of view where you're like somebody that's just coming into writing, or just, as an example.
Yeah.
But mainly just write a bunch of bad stuff all the time. And don't be afraid that it's going to be garbage, because it is going to be garbage.
Yeah.
A lot of my stuff is garbage. And you don't stop because it's not good. You just keep working at it, keep chunking at it every day.
I feel like everything you just said is majority of what we needed to hear when we were in like high school, college.
Yeah.
Basically, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to turn out how you want it to turn out, but do it anyway and get better at it.
Right.
Yeah.
And like for Clip Clop, I would say, it is frustrating that I got a bunch of rejection letters and, that I'm not J.K. Rowling yet, but yet is the main word there. Yet, like, how many times she was rejected and not for nothing, when she was doing it, there was no like real avenue for self-publishing.
Right.
So we kind of have an advantage to being here now. And I'm not saying that everything that is self-published is gold. But those people had enough faith in themselves to put something out there to the world. So I'm sure there are plenty of people that think Clop Clop is not the greatest book ever. That's fine. Don't read it. But it's out there. I think that's one of the hardest things as a writer or an artist is that, it's hard to put yourself out there. It's hard to get rejected. It's hard to have people criticize something that you've worked hard for. But the alternative is just putting it in a box somewhere in your closet. I don't think so.
Right.
That's useless. That's a waste of your time.
Right. Yep, I agree.
Don't be afraid to fail.
Yes, do not be afraid to fail. That's why I tell people, like, when I released the first Cowgirl Cameron book, they're like, "Oh, why didn't you tell us you were writing a book?" And I'm like, do you realize how much anxiety I had about publishing something?
Yes.
You just have to get it out there sometime. Just say, bleh, like, this is it. And then just see what happens.
Right.
And, at this point, it's just opened up so many more doors that, I definitely don't regret it. It was the very first book, amazing. No, but it did several things that I wanted it to do, showing representation. Has a curly head girl on the front, It's just, I have kind of certain goals that I'm trying to get out there with the series that I'm like, okay, that first one, it could have been better, but it was the first one. We got 1 million to go.
Right. And you learned from that. And people read your book, and now it's on people's shelves somewhere. Like, that's a legacy in and of itself. Doesn't matter how it got out there.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, thank you so much for talking to us today. If you want to kind of give us your shout out to all your website, your social media and stuff, so people can follow Clip Clop, we can stay up to date on the launch of the second book, stuff like that. So if you want to give us your social medias and your website.
I'd be glad to. It's Clop Chronicles. That's clipclopchronicles.com. We're on Facebook under Clop Chronicles and on Twitter at Clop Book.
Clop Book. Okay.
So follow us, keep in touch, buy the next book, buy the first book, buy both books for a friend.
I know that's right. Buy all the books.
Oh
my God, Caitlin.
Your little nieces and nephews.
That was so funny. We just said that at the same time. Anyway, well, thank you so much, Angelica, for talking to us today. I can't wait to finish this book because I feel like I'm reading about myself, and I love it.
I can't wait for Haley to read it when she gets here, because it's going to be the book that she reads, to do her 20 minutes a day.
Yeah, I'm sure she will be able to see her.
I'll be happy to be her 20 minutes a day.
Well, all right.
Thank you guys so much for responding and getting back to me and given me this honor to be on your podcast. And good job for what you guys are doing to bring the community together of chocolate writers, and that we're not alone.
Yes.
Shout out to you guys.
I'm gonna have to make a chocolate writers t-shirt.
I know. Wait, let me make it.
Oh my God, that was so funny.
All the chocolate dreams are coming true.
Yes. Oh my God.
Thank you for listening to Young Black Equestrians, the podcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for updates. Listen, rate, and review us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Tune in next week for another episode.